I do want to ask you about how much you can say about how you interpreted the film and what the big question you had was. Because I think that the film very importantly has an awful lot of scope for people to read their own experiences into it. So Maggie Gyllenhaal said in that interview that what she got from the story was the feeling of hearing something expressed that she understood that was being said out loud for the first time. And that lovely thing when she says, okay, you can read it in a book on your own, but if you make it into a film, then it's something that you can experience with other people. What would that be like? Does this thing which has been untalked about, unwritten about? And the way I interpreted that was the central line about Olivia Colman's character, Leda, saying that she's an unnatural mother. So what I saw in the film was the story of the older Leda, Olivia Colman. The first time you see her, she arrives on this, looks like an idyllic place. You know, she arrives there, there's Ed Harris character, weather looks beautiful. She finds her space on the beach. She has her books. She's content. But there are bugs in this Garden of Eden. There is a huge bug that comes in through the window that looks like something from Guillermo del Toro's Mimic. There is this swarm of people that suddenly arrive from Queens and break up the tranquility of what she thought was going to be a kind of, lovely solitude. And then all the way through, there are her own memories of her own past. And crucially, what happens is she sees another character. She sees Dakota Johnson's character with a young girl, and Dakota Johnson is obviously struggling to deal with the young girl. And then the young girl disappears. Suddenly they're calling on the beach. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? And what the film tells you, but without somebody actually spelling it out, is, okay, this is striking a chord with Olivia Colman. We are going to talk past the news. But what's really fascinating is, okay, but what's the reaction? Because Olivia Colman is looking at something that in my mind, reminds her of something in her own past, that then leads her back into her own past, in which she's played by Jessie Buckley. And incidentally, she's played by Jessie Buckley as almost a different character. Because although Jessie Buckley is a younger version of Leda, they seem to be two different characters, but it doesn't matter because it's almost like there are two different people coexisting within one person, the past and the present, the real and the imagined, the dream life and the real life. And I actually quite like the fact that they didn't match up. Now I can hear the synthesized sound of the news music
Simple
coming
Minds
in.
are playing again.
They are. So thank you very much, Jim. If you can just hold off the New Gold Dream for just a second while I say, after the news, you and I are going to talk as much as you can do about what you thought was happening.
Well, the trouble is, because Maggie Gyllenhaal was saying, well, what's your problem? And I said, well, I can't say because that's what people are going to debate.
No, so I'm going to ask you to be inventive about it, because I think it's really fascinating that we've both seen the same film, but we haven't both seen the same film. So to finish what I was saying, for me, the thing that's really impressive about the film is it's a story about a woman who is looking back to her past, about which she has very conflicted feelings, because she had conflicted feelings about motherhood, which is something that, as Maggie Gyllenhaal said, is not something that you're meant to talk about. You're supposed to be a natural mother, but she describes herself as an unnatural mother. And there is a very strange two-way relationship between her and this young woman that she sees on the beach who is clearly struggling with her daughter. And part of it is that the young woman on the beach looks at Olivia Colman, and it's almost as if, am I seeing myself in the future? And Olivia Colman looks at the woman on the beach played by Dakota Johnson and wonders whether she is going through what she went through. But what's fascinating is it's not just simply... And this is why it's so important that when Maggie Gyllenhaal said she's not crazy, it's not about a crazy woman. It absolutely isn't. What it's about is somebody haunted by their past decisions, but not necessarily haunted in a way which means that they instinctively regret them, but they're conflicted about them. And I thought the reason that was fascinating was, for me, the big comparison here are the films of Francois Ozon, because I thought there was so much of the atmosphere of Ozon's film, the whole thing about the beach setting, the idea that at any moment you feel like the sea could come and strip away the sand, and under the sand would be these jagged rocks. The whole film has a sense of impending cataclysm, impending dread. You feel like there's a secret buried that is about to be revealed, and yet it never quite is, because it is there already for all to see. I think it's beautifully shot by Ellen Nuvar. I think it has a fantastic score by Dickon Hinchliffe, who said that Maggie Gyllenhaal had asked him to make it sound like a lost recording, like a lost vinyl recording. And I love that idea that the film has a kind of memory element to it. Like it's a remembered tune that you don't remember hearing the first time round, but you know that it's from the past. And for me, Ozon is definitely the key, because it's that sense that there's something just below the surface, and any minute now it's going to be revealed. And one of my favourite things about it is that Olivia Colman doesn't say very much, nor does she make great, big, grand gestures. But the camera looks at her and you see this raging dialogue going on. And I also thought that Jessie Buckley did a really good job of portraying somebody who is at the end of their tether, but also spying a way out. So now I want to ask you, because I think the film is so open to interpretation, without spoiling anything.
Well, that's the thing.
I know. Can you say anything about what? Because you sent me a charismatic, an enigmatic text which said nobody and nothing are what they say.
Well, you do get that feeling, which is what you were alluding to.
Yes.
I'm just looking at this list of people who are in the movie. That Olivia Colman, Jessie Buckley, Dakota Johnson, Ed Harris, Peter Sarsgaard, Paul Mescal, they all portray a particular. They have a way of presenting their character.
Yes.
But as the movie goes on, you're thinking, can we trust that person? Can we?
Oh, yeah.
Are you actually who you say you are? Are you the person that we originally thought you were in the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes? And
central to that is a thing that Olivia Colman says, I have two daughters.
So the title of the movie is The Lost Daughter.
So who is the lost daughter?
Which is a neat way of saying that's really where the discussion is as far as we're concerned. So and I'm just basing this on what you've said.
Yeah.
That Olivia Colman could be the lost daughter. Maybe she has the lost daughter. Maybe we've just seen a lost daughter in the telling of the story. Maybe it's all of them. Maybe it's none of them.
Maybe it is literally the daughter on the beach who gets lost. Maybe it's that literal.
Maybe it's that literal, but that would be surprising if it was. And also, I think, well, it's very. I think it's unsettling and that feeling of not being very sure escalates as it goes through the film.
Yes.
So you start thinking, oh, this is going to be one kind of story, and then it definitely takes a twist. I was thinking, how nice to see Ed Harris again.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him in a movie for a very long time. I bet he's having a fine time doing this movie. Yes, and you admire Jessie Buckley, and you think, yes, she's nothing like Olivia Colman. And when you put the pieces, they don't quite go together. So the jigsaw doesn't work.
In the same way that Jessie Buckley and Olivia Colman don't quite go together, right down to the fact that their accents, it's like and of course it's interesting if you read the notes, neither of them watched the other one's performance. So it's almost like they deliberately played them as two separate people.
Also, she might not be, and this is from what Maggie Gyllenhaal was saying, she might not be, it was very important that she's not a crazy woman.
Yes.
But she does some crazy things, which is not the same. She does not behave in a, quote, normal way. Some of the decisions she makes in the movie, some of the ways she behaves in the movie are distinctly odd.
Yes, and you are left wondering exactly why she did this central thing. There's also, it's worth saying, one of the scenes in the film that really pierced me was she goes to watch a revival movie screening, and she's really enjoying it, and then these very rowdy boys come in and sit at the front, and everyone's just, okay, let's just not do anything, because you've already been told that there are bad people. There are bad people that you don't want to mess with. And Olivia Colman is sitting there getting more and more annoyed, and then she stands up and she starts yelling at them.
Quite rightly.
Yes, but it didn't every atom of your being go, sit down, leave, don't, just stop, just don't do what you're doing now. I mean, I thought in terms of the kind of the eruption of buried stuff, that scene when they're watching the movie when she loses the plot was really telling, and yet it's a very incidental detail.
On the subject of Peter Sarsgaard, I was
Extravagantly handsome.
the extravagantly handsome Peter Sarsgaard. I do think, I mean, that's the only reason why it's relevant to the fact that they're married, is the fact that she directed her husband in a sex scene with Jessie Buckley. I know that's a very unusual kind of situation to be in. So anyway, she said no, he had to be irresistible. And you can see exactly why. And I've suddenly noticed Peter Sarsgaard cropping up in all kinds of things, as is the way of this. And I was watching Dope Sick, which is this drama on Disney Plus. Michael Keaton is the kind of the most famous, and he's the executive producer on it. Which is the OxyContin Purdue Pharma disaster, the opioid epidemic in America. And Peter Sarsgaard I've been watching this all the time. That's Peter Sarsgaard. Look, he's still extravagantly handsome. None more so in The Lost Daughter. Anyway, I'm sure this debate will continue.